Well, good morning. Here it is. It's Monday, and of course, today is March the 31st. This is the last day of March. It's hard to believe, but we're at the end of the third month of this year, and we're fixing to start the 4th, April. But anyway, I hope you had a great weekend. Hope that you were able to spend some time with family or friends, and whatever the case may be, even if it was just catching up around, home or whatever you were able to do, hopefully you had a great time and a fulfilling weekend. Hope you had a great Sunday, worshiping at the place of your choice. And anyway, now God has blessed us with the breath to breathe here on this Monday morning, on the beginning of a new week. And certainly hope and pray this morning finds you feeling well. Hope that you're well rested and ready to tackle the opportunities that God has blessed us with here on this Monday morning. This morning I want to share a devotional with you entitled Words to Live By. In 1 Chronicles chapter 28, verse 9, it says this, "And Solomon, my son, learned to know the God of your ancestors intimately. Worship and serve him with your whole heart and a willing mind. For the Lord sees every heart and knows every plan and thought. If you seek him, you will find him. But if you forsake him, he will reject you forever." God promised, God promised David that his kingdom would last forever. And that was a reference, to Jesus, who centuries later, not only descended, from David, but also was closely identified with him. People called him Son of David. God also promised, that he would bless, David's son, who would also succeed him as king. It would be that son that, who finally, built the temple that David, wanted to build. That son would continue the lineage of David, that would eventually produce Jesus. That son was Solomon, and, the second child born to David and Bathsheba. Of course, their first child died as a consequence of their adulterous affair. God promised to bless Solomon, and to treat him as a son. Now, according to 1 Kings chapter 3, when Solomon became king, God said, "Ask for whatever you want for me to give you." And Solomon asked for wisdom so that, he could be the ruler that God wanted him to be. And so God was really pleased with Solomon's request, and he was so pleased that he gave him wisdom, and then he threw in wealth and honor. God equipped David's son to carry on his father's legacy and to make a name for himself. King Saul was dead. That meant David was the only living human who knew the challenges Solomon would face as a king. And before he died, he offered Solomon, some final words of advice. Now, you don't have to, be the next in line, to the throne of Israel to benefit from David's hard-earned wisdom. And you can find his advice in 1 Chronicles chapter 29. Then you also find it in the passage we read to begin with in 1 Chronicles 28:9. But here are 3 starting points. First of all, develop an intimate relationship with God. Knowing, about God from stories in the Bible or other people's perspective, it isn't the same as knowing him personally. You develop an intimate, relationship with God by spending time, in his presence, praying and listening. And by meditating on his word, asking him to reveal himself, through his promises and his commands. And by prioritizing, his will. Isn't that what the Christian life is all about? A deep friendship, with God. Secondly, serve God with a whole heart and a willing mind. The better you know God, the more you'll want to serve him. Serving God isn't drudgery. I mean, it's not just a duty. It's a delight and a privilege, no matter what form, that service takes. Now remember, God's plan for you is better than your plan for yourself. Now, number 3, finally, put the Lord first in your life, and everything else will find its proper balance. See, that's the key, to effective prayer, aligning yourself with God's will. Jesus said in John chapter 15, verse 7, if you remain in me and my words remain in you, you may ask for anything you want and it will be granted. He also said in John 15:14, you are my friend, you are my friends if you do what I command. He didn't say, you are my friends if you do the things that you personally agree with. I mean, God has told us in His Word how to live. It's not for us to pick and choose, sections of the Bible we like and then toss the rest aside. If God tells you to do something, He says it for good reason, and you need to obey Him. And if God says not to do something, He also says it for a good reason. Even if you don't understand it, obey Him. That's the key to, I think, the Christian life, is just being obedient to what God wants each one of us to do in our lives, and He'll take care of the rest, and He'll take care of us. But here's what I want to leave with you this morning, a question for you to reflect on today. How can you tell when you're putting the Lord first in your life? Hope you'll think on that today and meditate on it. But anyway, hope you have a wonderful day. And remember, Angie and I, we love you guys, and we're praying for you. And Lord willing, I'll see you tomorrow morning. God bless you.